This Bitcoin transaction just costed 20 Bitcoin in fees to send less than 1% of a Bitcoin. What is going on here? Welcome back, everyone. Rest assured, the Bitcoin network is working just fine. Okay, there's nothing wrong. Okay, there's nothing broken. Okay, it was just what seems to be a mistake. Anyways, let's dive into this whole situation because it had Bitcoin Twitter up in arms, asking questions. All the theories, all different kinds of theories came out, and we're going to cover some of those and have some fun. So let's do it. Someone paid $500,000 in transaction fees to move just $200 of Bitcoin. A user accidentally paid nearly 20 Bitcoin in a fee to move just 0.074 Bitcoin, $200. And just for perspective, right? That's less than 1% of a Bitcoin. The wallet that made the payment is a Bitcoin power user, having sent and received more than 120,000 transactions, according to Kaza CTO Jameson Lopp. The transaction that paid nearly 20 BTC fee a few hours ago looks like an exchange or payment processor with buggy software. It made 4 payments that added up to around $200 while sending $1,700 worth of Bitcoin to a change address. The transaction fee was 19.89 Bitcoin, which is more than what most people have. Anyways, the wallet appeared in June, and it's still making transactions according to on-chain data. The transaction fee went to Bitcoin mining pool F2 Pool, which mined the block containing the transaction. Chun Wang, co-founder and administrator of F2 Pool, said the 20 Bitcoin will be put on hold for 3 days in case the originator wants to claim it. If unclaimed during that period, it will be paid to its pool of Bitcoin miners. And here's the tweet from Chun himself. We'll put these 20 BTC on hold for now to be redistributed to miners if nobody comes to claim it after 3 days. Look at that. Honest miners. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Or so it seems. But anyways, let's continue with our story. Bitcoin users can pay any amount they wish for transaction fees. If the transaction fee is too low, miners may not accept it. And if it's very high, it will likely be processed immediately. Average transaction fees are typically around $1 to $2, but have risen as high as $60 during periods of high activity. And before we continue, this actually brings about the point. You'll notice that there's quite a few large shitcoin accounts that often like to tout that the Bitcoin network is congested with unconfirmed transactions. So what does that actually mean? Okay, so let's say you and I would like to have our transactions included in the next block, okay? And let's say you don't want to pay a fee. You just want to have that transaction done for almost free, So you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to pay 1 sat per VByte, okay? Now I, on the other hand, have a transaction that I believe needs to be finalized as close to immediately as possible. Or I'm just in a rush, or hey, I can choose to pay whatever I want to have a transaction put into the next block. Right? I can incentivize the miner by paying a higher fee. And so I do. I go and decide I'm going to pay, 20 times what you're paying. Well, my transaction is most likely going to get mined before yours because I paid the higher fee. Your transaction that's still sitting there, that's not congestion. That's not stopping the Bitcoin network from processing other transactions. So this is just absolute bullshit narratives that these scammers try to pull together, essentially just trying to trick you into thinking that Bitcoin doesn't do what it actually does. So anyways, just it's important to, it's important to try to debunk these things. Anyways, let's continue on. Let's take a look at this transaction because look, there's, of course, when this happened, a whole bunch of different narratives started popping up all over Bitcoin Twitter, and we're going to take a look at a few of them. So here we go. Okay, this is what's pretty crazy. So here it is. Here's the fee. We're talking 1.9 billion sats for a fee. And look at the fee rate that they paid. 8.1 million sats per V byte. Let's go through some of the explanations. I actually think that Patrick, the Bitcoin motorist, probably had this correct. And let's go see what he said. He goes, so of course, right? Sonny Poe goes, what is this and how so I make sure this never happens to me? Okay. Yeah, I don't blame him. Because of course, when I saw this too, I was like, damn, I'm like, I've done a few Bitcoin transactions and I've never had that kind of a mistake happen. So yeah, I was obviously interested to see the responses to his comment. And Patrick the Motorist goes, this happens in manual Bitcoin transactions. The user inputs all the addresses that Bitcoin is going to, and whatever is left over is the transaction fee. Someone not understanding this may think the remainder stays with the sender. That never happens. You need to specify an address for your change. I think that's probably the most plausible type of explanation. I also think possibly the buggy software that Jameson Lopp alluded to could be it too. But let's just keep going. Let's just keep going because there's so much commentary that comes out of Bitcoiners for this. Fellow podcaster Vlad. Okay, so Vlad goes like this. He goes, while everyone's freaking out about this and assumes it was a mistake, it's good to remember that Bitcoin has built-in fungibility mechanism, which turns tainted and politically sanctioned coins into squeaky clean and fresh BTC that no institution can reject. This might have been one of these cases where the coins were on some list and the miners made them clean again. Let's give a shout out to Dendy Hoddle over here because essentially everybody stole his screenshot. Okay, everybody took his screenshot and used it for their own stuff. So yeah, man, shout out to you, bud. You were the first account that I saw post this. Going back to Vlad's assertion, could be. You know, maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't think. I personally don't think so. But it's interesting. Giacomo, I'm not surprised, has the humorous take on this. This is what happens when you think in bits while selecting your fee rate. And then, of course, if you take a look at some of the responses, right? This wasn't done on accident. It was done on purpose. So Giacomo responds and goes, why? He goes, in my opinion, a super whale throwing the miners a bone or a distraction. Someone who has millions of dollars in their wallet isn't going to make a mistake and send 500K transaction fees by accident. Okay, fair enough. Somehow, right? Somehow we got to make this about drive chains. Somehow. Anyways, here we go. So we've got Paul Stork here at TruthCoin, the main proponent of drive chains, who is desperately trying to push this project. And of course, this particular situation is used as a way to garner some engagement. And of course, I'm helping by showing his tweets on this show. Anyways, yep, all of the drive chain FUD is lies and concern trolling. Similar things were said about Bitcoin itself in the early days. My dude, I think that is a bit of a stretch. I really do think that is a bit of a stretch. So, I mean, look, can I blame him for trying to use this for engagement? No, but I don't see I don't really see the connection here. But I will say this: having a background in doing technical support for enterprise level products, software and hardware, and even also doing some QA and doing what's called user experience testing. Okay, so essentially what you do is that you go through and you simply test out the user experience of a specific piece of software. You essentially create these different profiles, right, of different types of users. So you have your beginner user that has no idea what they're doing. You have the intermediate, the person who is capable of following instructions, finding their way around, but doesn't really know the software. Then we have like something like an administrator, and so on and so forth, right? So you create all these different types of roles and you try to imagine everything those people would do, and then you essentially test the user experience for each of those role types. It sounds pretty simple, and it is. Really, all it is very time consuming, and the person doing the work has to be meticulous. And the other problem of it is that oftentimes when these things are tested in this manner, they're tested like a horse with the blinders on, meaning that they are just going to see that when they do their test, they're going to look A, B, and C. They quite often testers do not do what is called negative testing. Anyways, I'll shut up about all this. I was just trying to give some of my background so that people have an idea of where I'm coming from. No, I'm not an expert. No, I'm not trying to tell you that I have some magical creds or some shit like that that you're supposed to believe me. It's just about understanding what my experience is in regards to this. Anyways, there is something to be said for if it was a mistake, right? If it was a mistake that they sent that amount of Bitcoin as a transaction fee, if it was a mistake, then I think there is something to be said for an improvement in the user experience. And there's nothing wrong with improving the user experience, okay? And it doesn't always mean, when you improve the user experience, it doesn't always mean that you're going to make the software more insecure for the end user. In some cases, improving the user experience simply just involves popping a little pop-up during an operation that somebody would do. For example, in this case where supposedly somebody sent Bitcoin to multiple addresses and didn't realize that they had to specify the change address, okay, where the change from the transaction would go. So, I mean, it's not an egregious statement to say, well, possibly there should have been a confirmation box that popped up or appeared before the transaction was finalized, showing a summary of everything that is going to take place, and then asking the user to confirm if they want to continue. Like, quite often, this is how software handles the user stopping themselves from shooting themselves in the foot, right? They pop up a prompt so that the user can read through it and confirm this is indeed what I want to do. So, there'd just be a box that pops up. It shows all the addresses that it would be going to. It would show what the transaction fee that is being paid, okay? And then it would essentially ask you if you wish to continue, so that you understand that you are indeed paying 19.89 BTC to make that transaction. So I do think that there is something to be said for that, but I also do want to push back on because obviously this particular situation brought all kinds of no coiners out of the woodwork, and making fun of Bitcoin. Oh, sound money. Oh, that's how sound money works. The reality is that that's not a problem with Bitcoin, right? Like, a user error happens in anything. Okay, like it really does. It will happen in anything. And is the user error a problem of the actual protocol, or in this case, the network or the token? No, it's not. This was an issue, so it seems, of a user error, a user input error. Possibly they didn't even, I could say they didn't understand if it was an individual, but if it was a piece of software, then, it was some buggy code and it better get patched sooner than later. But the point is that these types of situations, this is not a reflection on the Bitcoin network. And the last thing I want to say about it is this. When I first got into computers, and I got out of tech school, and I had my network administration degree, and the first job I did was PC troubleshooting, right? I would build computers, and I would go on site, and I would troubleshoot computers. Okay, so if you installed a piece of hardware back then, like a modem, a sound card, something like that. So there were like these little jumpers, okay, on the computer's motherboard, and even jumpers on, in some cases, the modem or the sound card. Well, if you didn't have those jumpers set up correctly, okay, the sound card didn't work. Plain and simple. The modem didn't work. There were even situations way back in the day where if you set up AMD motherboards, okay, and you would pop the processor onto them, if you didn't have the jumper settings set correctly, you would fry the motherboard. Now, if we were to apply the no coiner use case to this right now, we'd say, well, computers are never going to be a thing. No one's ever going to use computers. And just like the execs at Xerox said, no serious business will ever be done on a computer. They were wrong. They were wrong. And they were just looking at it at that particular moment. They looked at the antiquated tech they were using at that moment and they said, there is not a chance this goes anywhere. And I think that people are making the same mistake with Bitcoin today. They're seeing these less than desirable user experiences, and they are coming to the conclusion and deciding this is the end all to this experience. It doesn't get better than this. Wait, just wait. All of this stuff is going to get ironed out. All of this is going to work a lot better, a lot smoother. People are going to be essentially, I believe that there will be fail safes put in to essentially stop people from metaphorically shooting themselves in the foot. Guys, let me know what you think. Is Bitcoin software going to get better? Are we going to create these extremely desirable user experiences? That's what really matters. Let me know what you guys think. That does it for today. Drop us a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Help us grow the channel. And I will catch you all tomorrow.